conmigo, todos los que están sintonizándose aquí en todos los que se están sintonizando aquí en en este en este video. Mire, yo le voy a decir una cosa. Yo estuve hace unos momentitos viendo los eventos que estaban ocurriendo, digamos, que han estado ocurriendo en los últimos meses, en los últimos meses, vamos a decirlo así. Y le quiero decir algo. O sea, estoy tratando de cambiar el fondo porque no quiero, aliarme con estas cosas bueno, la cosa de todo esto es que yo le quiero, a ver si puedo, si lo tenía aquí. Bien, aquí esto mismo, esto es lo que voy a poner como fondo. Vamos a ver si me trabaja. Pero mientras tanto, yo voy a decir algo y lo voy a decir bien claro. Yo estaba en no, de todas maneras, vamos a poner este que está aquí, que tengo, mire, si me pueden disculpar, es que yo tengo unas cositas aquí. Bien, vamos a poner este, en cuanto cargue y, pues, todo salga bien. Gracias al Señor. Bueno, yo voy a tomarme estos minutitos, unos minutos, para poder hablar de la situación que estamos teniendo a corriente en Estados Unidos. La situación, eh, es alarmante. Ya estamos en un tiempo donde estamos cercanos a las elecciones. Vamos a decir, un par de semanas antes de las elecciones generales de los Estados Unidos. Y yo como votante, yo pues quiero, tener esto, quiero que todo el mundo tenga esto en cuenta. Que hay que hacer una labor. Ahí, si usted es creyente, eh, usted puede hacer algo al respecto, no solamente quedarse callado. Esta noche yo estuve, sentado viendo televisión como cualquier persona, como cualquier, como cualquier cristiano que toma un momentito de entretenimiento. Bueno, cambié de canales porque porque yo estoy en el Tomcat Comba no, en el Tomcat News, que le voy a cambiar el nombre, bueno, y es el canal Tomcat Comba. Pero yo le voy a decir una cosa, ahora mismo estoy repitiendo por el otro canal, el de Pure Blessings, por si acaso hay alguien que quiere saber, y estoy repitiendo también en Facebook para que la gente no se haga, o sea, no digan, pues, pero yo no te vi. Bueno, para decir lo que está sucediendo aquí, yo estaba escuchando a este señor Johnathan Cahn, y yo dije: "Un momentito", y me fui al baño, para asear mi cuerpo, más nada. Pero que estaba escuchando a este señor mientras estaba en la bañera. Este señor ya de hace un tiempito había llamado mi atención. El mensaje que él lleva es muy a la par con lo que el cristiano debe de tener, que tenemos que amar a Israel, tenemos que amar, no, amar a Israel, amar a Dios sobre todas las cosas. Y déjeme decirle, yo me quedé asombrado cuando escuché a este señor el mensaje de Dios que él le dio a la gente. No es, no es que este señor viene y toma, no, es que hay unas situaciones, hay unas repercusiones que vienen, unas consecuencias, y estoy hablándole al pueblo latino que vive aquí en Estados Unidos. ¿Mm? Hay unas consecuencias que hay que tomar en cuenta, hay unas consecuencias que hay que saber saber, hay que saber cómo discernirlas. Y este señor habló de una forma que habló a mi corazón directamente. Yo estaba en la bañera, yo me di par de enjabonada mientras escuchaba a este señor. Y yo decía: "Guau, esto está esto está tremendo". Al final de este video, yo voy a traducir lo que yo pude entender. Y no quiero que me no, o sea, como no quiero que me cancelen el canal, o ninguno de los canales que yo tengo, ni en Facebook tampoco. Yo no voy a utilizar ciertas palabras, y lo que voy a hacer es que voy a buscar las palabras sinónimas. No voy a disfrazar el tema, pero voy a utilizar palabras sinónimas para para poder para poder llevar el mensaje a cabo. Bien, así que yo voy a tomarme este momentito porque quiero que todos, y si usted está viendo esto en diferido, por favor, escuche bien, escuche bien, déjeme, escuche bien lo que estoy hablando, bien, y después del video yo voy a tomar un momentito para hablarle a ustedes de la situación que estamos viviendo ahora mismo, ya que se está viviendo ahora mismo. Un momentito, perdóneme, perdóneme, que hay un canal que había un canal que no estaba ahí. Y si usted está en el chat, por favor, déjeme su comentario abajo. Y si a usted le gusta si a usted le encanta o sea, si usted quiere ver más contenido, no que le encanta, si usted quiere ver más contenido, suscríbase al canal, suscríbase al canal, por favor, y déjeme un comentario. Bueno, y ahora pues yo voy a tomar el momento para comenzar el video de este señor que se llama Johnathan Cahn. Así que por favor, si se, si se va un poquito fuera de, o sea, si tomo un poquito más largo es porque tengo que, bien, gloria a Dios.
The time has come to speak of the election. I've been asked, what do I think of it? I'm going to tell you. This is Johnathan Cahn. If there are those in your life who need to hear this, send it to them. Press like. And to make sure you don't miss the messages I'm going to be putting on this channel, press subscribe. Now, we have come to a crossroads, and one of the time has come to speak of the election. I've been asked, what do I think of it? I'm going to tell you. This is Johnathan Cahn. If there are those in your life who need to hear this, send it to them and press like. And to make sure you don't miss the message I'm going to be putting on this channel, press subscribe. We have come to a crossroads, and one of two courses are going to be chosen for America. Never in modern times has the choice been so stark and so radical. And this is not about people, it's about issues.
Bien, yo voy a tomar este momento para hacer el acercamiento. Este varón, el Señor, pues, Dios lo ha puesto lo ha puesto como vigía en el Señor lo ha puesto a él para hablarle al pueblo. Y esto es lo que está sucediendo ahora mismo. A él se le hizo la pregunta de que qué él cree, qué es lo que él cree en las elecciones. Este señor no es político, pero él es la voz profética que Dios ha puesto en los Estados Unidos en el momento adecuado ahora mismo. Y él va a tocar unos puntos muy clave. Muy clave. Y como le dije, hay ciertas palabras que voy a buscar el significado propio para que usted vea lo que se está hablando y pueda entender lo que yo estoy hablando.
The Democratic presidential and vice presidential ticket is the most radical leftist ticket in history. The woman leading it, Kamala Harris, was ranked as among the most leftist of senators in the entire Senate. In the midst of the summer of rage, when a police precinct was set on fire, and which would result in deaths and massive destruction across the nation, she posted an appeal to bail out those who had taken part. And she said on television, it's happening, it's going to continue to happen, and it should continue to happen. More dangerous, this is the most anti-life, pro-death ticket in American history. Though they tried to avoid saying it outright, both the presidential and vice presidential candidate are for abortion with no restrictions, which means, in effect, abortion up to the moment of birth. You murder a baby up to the point of its being born. That's long after that baby has started to suck its thumb. And she has promised to make her priority to pass a federal law that will wipe away every restraint in place against the killing of unborn children. And it's even more than that. You see, Kamala Harris was faced with a bill dealing with babies born alive in a failed abortion attempt. And it basically said the baby that is born, you can't murder it. You can't starve it to death. You can't leave it to die. You can't kill it. It was the Born Alive bill. And you know what she did? She came against it. A bill that says not to kill a baby that is born. She was against it. She said it was extreme. That's infanticide. And it's even more than that. She didn't just advocate such extreme anti-life, anti-Bible, anti-God policies and acts, but she waged war against those who upheld the ways of God. She is so very radical and anti-life that she waged war against pro-life pregnancy centers that exist simply to help and support the mother in bearing her child, to give support to save the child's life. She waged war against them. She put into effect a law that mandated that pro-life pregnancy centers would be forced against their will to refer their people to abortion clinics.
Friday, the 24th of May, when everything changed for the congregation Kiryat Shmona, which was miraculously dispersed just hours before a Hezbollah missile destroyed their place of worship.
Didn't they would be punished every time with financial punishments, hoping to drive them out of existence. Except the Supreme Court overruled her as violating the Constitution in her obsession against life. She also tried to force conservatives or Christian organizations to hand over their donors list for the government to see until the courts overruled her for that radical agenda. Then there was the case of David Daleiden. He's the one who performed a great service by exposing Planned Parenthood's agenda of selling baby parts for profit, trafficking in the parts of murdered babies in abortion. He exposed it. He should have been honored for what he did. But Kamala Harris instead had a meeting with the leaders of Planned Parenthood, and shortly after that, she began waging war through the legal system against David Daleiden for exposing Planned Parenthood. She actually brought charges against him using laws that had never been used in that way before. She brought him to trial, leveling 15 felony charges against him to send him into prison. She had his house raided, had his computer files and personal information confiscated, and recordings that were exposing Planned Parenthood taken away. This is how radically dangerous this is. And this is not even to mention her advocacy of gender mutilation for children against the rights of parents. How dangerous this would be if this one becomes president of the entire nation. This is gigantic because these are issues that are central in the Bible, the issues of life, of murder, of blood, of the innocent, of the defenseless, of children, of gender, of immorality, of oppression and persecution of God's people. These are crucial to God. On the other side is the Republican ticket. Now we know that the leader of the ticket isn't perfect, and one doesn't have to agree with everything. But again, it's not about people, it's about the issues and the purpose of God. On these most crucial, gigantic issues, the two parties, the two tickets, are still light years apart. On the Democratic side, it is now radically anti-life. On the Republican side, it is not perfect, but it is pro-life. On the Democratic side, it is radically for the merging of gender, male and female, the mutilation of children. On the Republican side, it is very much against the mutilation of children in sex transitioning. On the Democratic side, it's radically tending toward the suppression of Christians and religious freedom and even free speech. On the Republican side, it's very much for Christians and religious freedom. On the Democratic side, it is questionable now. On Israel, it's divided. On the Republican side, it is strongly pro-Israel. If your house is on fire and you have a choice between two firefighters, one appears friendly, laughs a lot, tries to tell you what you want to hear, but is going to let your house burn down and is even in favor of your house burning down with babies perishing within your house. The other is rough around the edges. He brags and you don't really care for his style, but he's committed to fighting the fire that is burning down your house and saving the lives of the children inside. There's no choice. There's only one. You say yes to the ornery, rough around the edges one who is committed to saving your house and the people within it. God will use whom he will use for his purposes. Unlikely vessels, imperfect vessels, he did so throughout the Bible. And he used Donald Trump with all that he is to do what no other president had ever done, to overturn Roe versus Wade. And he used Donald Trump to do what no other president had ever done, to recognize Jerusalem as the eternal capital of Israel. Those were gigantic. The forces that are moving America rapidly against the ways of God are massive, and that will lead to persecution, occupy virtually every institution of our culture. There's no question that the Republican candidates who would act to slow down that fall, and the Democratic candidates will accelerate that fall. We put our trust only in God, not in a party or a man. And America can only be saved through revival, turning back to God. But the political realm is important, just as it was in the days of the prophets and the apostles. It can open a door for religious freedom and life, for the spreading of the gospel and revival, or it can close that door down. We are called to be the salt of the earth and the light of the world. That means we are charged to affect and impact this world for God. We have what most generations in history never had, a vote. That means we can affect the future, the government, the course of a nation, our culture, or we can abdicate and forfeit that right. If we complain and speak against what's happening to our culture, but don't even lift our fingers to cast a vote against it, to do the easiest of actions to slow it down or stop it, then woe to us. If we were in Nazi Germany and had the chance to vote for or against the Holocaust and didn't feel motivated enough to vote, woe to us. If we could have done something to stop or in any way limit the Holocaust but did not do it, woe to us. There are those who put their lives at risk to hide Jewish children and families. But if we don't feel motivated enough even to go to a voting booth and cast our vote to stop the killing of children or limit or save a life, then woe to us. If one sees a criminal taking off a child, taking away from the streets to mutilate them, and we don't lift a finger to stop them, we are guilty. Woe to us. And if one sees a criminal taking a baby away to kill it, and we don't do the simplest of things to stop it, woe to us, we become accomplices to the act. In this case, we are seeing multitudes of those who are taking multitudes of children to mutilate them, surgically cut them up, transition them. If we don't lift a finger to cast our vote against it, woe to us. And we are seeing multitudes of those who are killing babies, unborn children. If we don't do the simplest thing to stop it, woe is us. We have become accomplices. If we are pastors, if you're a pastor, a leader, and you speak against what is happening in the culture, but you don't charge your people to cast their vote against it, our preaching becomes null and void. God said to the prophet Ezekiel that he had appointed him a watchman. And if he didn't warn the people to sound the trumpet, then God would hold him accountable for their blood. Now Ezekiel did